Welcome back to the channel, Gil.
Thank you. Always happy to be here with you.
Today, let's talk about something special in the light of HRT. So, Anavar, Oxandrolone. What is it? What are the benefits, side effects maybe, and can it be used in a hormone replacement therapy protocol?
This is the TRT and Hormone Optimization YouTube channel. And if you want to learn all about the science-based information on this topic, consider subscribing, hit that notification bell, and you'll be on your way.
The age-old question that always comes up, and it's always one that's a little difficult to answer, not because of scientific reasons, but mostly because of implications surrounding it. So first and foremost, the word Anavar is describing a name brand of a medication known as Oxandrolone, and Anavar no longer exists. It hasn't existed in about 20 years or so. It was initially introduced in the early 60s, and it ran its course, I believe, in Holland, as well as in the United States, under the name brand Anavar up until sometime in the 90s when it was discontinued. There are only, I believe, 2 or 3 manufacturers around, at least in the United States today, that are still making pharmaceutical grade, quote unquote, Anavar. But it went back to its generic name of the medication, which is Oxandrolone. And the brand of the medication currently prescribed is called Oxandrin, but it is Oxandrolone tablets. So for starters, if you ever want to have a conversation with any medical professional regarding a potential for Anavar, do not use the word Anavar because you're only going to scare them. Anavar is commonly used in the bodybuilding world in terms of the word because it's stuck from back then, but Oxandrolone is the medication, and it does have medical uses. It's indicated particularly for muscle wasting diseases, specifically in burn victims. People with severe burns, 2nd or 3rd degree burns, become catabolic. And there is a formula to figure out a percentage of hydration as well as other medications to help reverse some of the effects of burns. And muscle wasting or catabolic syndrome in general is very common with burn victims. So they are often prescribed Oxandrolone for an extended period until they are out of the loop. This is also sometimes used in chemotherapy to prevent catabolism. It is sometimes used with HIV patients. I do believe, and I've read a little bit about potential uses for muscular dystrophy. Essentially, any muscle wasting sort of disease that you can imagine, it is extremely powerful in nitrogen retention capabilities. So you have to understand first and foremost, what is Oxandrolone? The Oxandrolone molecule is basically derived from DHT, or dihydrotestosterone. DHT is a more potent, more anabolic version of testosterone. It is one of the 2 key metabolites that our body converts testosterone into. Now, in the body, it gets converted via the 5-alpha reductase enzyme. The synthetic derivative are essentially bypassing the conversion of testosterone, and what it does is it binds to SHBG very strongly and therefore also inhibits its effects, allowing your testosterone to become more effective. It also has a strong binding affinity to the androgen receptor. Now, while it is significantly less androgenic than testosterone, it is significantly more anabolic. And this is why it is often used in a cutting phase in bodybuilding. It helps to harden the muscles without causing the androgenic side effects often associated with some of the more harsher steroid compounds. This is another reason why it is favored by females. One of the more female-friendly, less side effect adverse steroids out there. The fact that it happens to be an oral as opposed to an injectable is another reason why a lot of females tend to favor it. And it's also why a lot of people consider it like a starter steroid for guys who are not ready for injections. But with that said, it is not something that should be used unless you're on testosterone therapy because it still has a suppressive nature on your pituitary gland, tropic hormones, and it will suppress testosterone. As far as liver toxicity, which is something you hear quite often, in a moderately low dose, it is really no worse and probably even milder than Tylenol. It is certainly milder than the effects of alcohol if you have a drink a day. So Oxandrolone is not extremely liver toxic. The problem arises when your lifestyle is not conducive to proper liver care, when you consume alcohol, which you should never do, when using oral C17 alpha alkylated hormones, and I'll get back into that and what that means in a minute. But the hepatotoxicity of oxandrolone is rather mild compared to other orals, and it's often prescribed anywhere from 2.5 to 5 to 10 milligrams. The capsules are only produced up to 10 milligram capsules, and ideally it would be used twice per day because of a short half-life. As far as the bodybuilding community goes, guys will often use 50 to 100 milligrams per day, and this is where you're going to run into the liver toxicity, where we see AST and ALT spike, fairly high. It is something that you should use cautiously and use for a short period of time, often 4, 6, maybe 8 weeks, if you're utilizing it for that purpose. When it's used for medicinal purposes, something like 5 milligrams twice per day can be sustained fairly long term, so long as you are monitoring your liver enzymes and overall health, and it is not being impacted in a negative way. Some of the benefits of this DHT are going to include more free testosterone for guys who tend to have elevated DHT. It is going to help with water retention because DHTs do tend to dry out and harden the body. It definitely will improve libido as well, partially because of the SHBG binding factor, as well as DHT in and of itself elevating. And this is the key male hormone during puberty, by the way. So sense of well-being, overall strength, hardness, dryness, and improved libido and performance are going to be expected. And I am a bigger fan of minimal effective dosing for longer periods while maintaining minimal damage to organs, as opposed to blasting guys with particular compounds and then letting them kind of, get what they can in 4 to 6 weeks and come off. Because again, remember, you're not on a bodybuilding schedule. You don't have to get on stage in 4 or 6 weeks. So you're not in a prep mode. And at the same time, you're not going to lead a lifestyle like these guys do. And secondly, their physique takes priority and their health and overall well-being takes a back seat. So not something I recommend for guys on TRT at those doses. With that said, some guys benefit from this at a low dose for extended periods of time? Sure. But let's put that aside for a minute and understand the legal implications. It is a Class 3 federally scheduled drug. Therefore, it is monitored by the DEA. And prescribers are going to be weary about prescribing this for anything other than its indicated usage, because the only off-label use for this medication is muscle building and hardening. Therefore, it's not something that someone is going to say, well, I have a patient who wants a performance enhancer, let me go and prescribe him a steroid. This is not testosterone. This is not nandrolone, which even that has kind of that gray area. But nandrolone has other indications for health and medicinal purposes. Oxandrolone is primarily used for muscle wasting disease, and if you're not a candidate for it, it is going to be an uphill battle. So I would be very weary of the clinics that are running out there just handing out Oxandrolone like Tic Tacs, because at the end of the day, when someone doesn't care about their license or their provider's license, because I will tell you providers care about their license, but most don't understand what Oxandrolone is, they'll just write whatever they're told by their upper management. And if that upper management happens to be a business person, their main concern is finances and not protecting their provider's license. I would be very cautious on running to a clinic just because they offer Oxandrolone to everyone who walks in the door. So again, it's got medical indications and uses and benefits, but it does have some side effects, and it certainly comes with scrutiny when it is prescribed on a regular basis to too many people. Okay, so you're going to have those 1 or 2 or 3 patients that may benefit and need it. Maybe they have a DHT deficiency, and maybe they have elevated SHBG. But again, when clinics start to give this out like candy, that's a red flag. So as with anything, there's no such thing as a free lunch. Okay, you're going to get some benefits. You're going to get some side effects from it. Getting back to that whole C17 alpha alkylated. When medications go through what's known as the first liver pass, and that is anything that's ingested orally through the GI tract, eventually everything ends up in the liver through the bloodstream for metabolism, but the initial liver pass is going through things that enter the stomach. That is going to be broken down. Most hormones, with the exception of vitamin D3, most hormones are not really going to survive that first liver pass, and that's where that efficacy factor is greatly reduced, and sometimes totally nullified. So on the steroids that are C17 alpha alkylated, all this means is that the 17th carbon atom, okay, in that alpha ring, the 17th carbon atom goes through an alkylation process. And that alkylation process allows them to basically survive that liver pass. And forgive me, I made an error there. It is actually the D ring where the 17th carbon, the 19th is the alpha ring. The D ring is where the 17th carbon atom resides. So that alpha alkylation process allows the hormone to survive the liver pass. And that is going to make it bioavailable via an oral form and not an injectable. If it was not alpha alkylated, it would require an injection, and therefore it would not be liver toxic. But this is why the orals are often liver toxic for that reason. So that in a nutshell is Anavar / Oxandrolone. Has its pluses, has a couple of minuses, and be very cautious. It is not a cheap hormone. It is extremely expensive, gram for gram, extremely expensive. If you're going to buy it outside of the pharmaceutical grade, it is most often faked. I mean, I've seen Oxandrolone repackaged where it's actually Dianabol, Winstrol, Ostarine. I mean, they'll sell you anything in a capsule and tell you it's Oxandrolone because it is expensive, but it's often not real Oxandrolone. I could tell you that a prescription Oxandrolone, 30-day supply for an average male, you're looking at anywhere from $800 to $1,200. When it comes to pharmaceutical grade, I've seen the insurance bills for it. Compounding pharmacies will make it at somewhere around $7 to $10 a capsule. You're looking at 2 capsules a day, so $400 to $600 a month. So if you think you're getting real Oxandrolone for $40 on the internet, it's not Oxandrolone you're buying, I could tell you that much. So be cautious, especially women, all right? Because while it's mild on the androgen scale, when they replace it with Winstrol or replace it with Turinabol or Dianabol, you women are going to start to realize why you shouldn't be doing this.
Okay, thank you so much, Gil.
You got it.
Hey, and now do this next. Click on one of these thumbnails to learn a ton more about TRT and hormone optimization.